Okay, so today it's quite a great week again for another science class, and I hope you're excited about it. I don't know how you are going to deal with the background noise over there. If you are going to, like, sometimes you mute when you want to speak, you're mute. When you're done talking, you mute again, like almost immediately, so that the background noise would not be so much over here. Did you get it?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell me the topics you were taught in science in that's from last week till now, in the just concluded week, from last week Wednesday till now?
We're learning about electricity.
Electricity. Did you get the
Yeah.
concept of potential difference, which is voltage, then current, and resistance? Was it taught?
Yeah.
Okay. So our last topic then actually did help. So since you're still learning electricity, how about biology and chemistry? Were there topics that were taught?
No, I didn't have any topics on that yet.
Okay. So today we are actually doing something very interesting. Yeah, very interesting. And it's right here. I'm going to uh, change my background. I want you to get what we are going to learn today. So I'm going to change my background to something, and you tell me what we are probably going to be learning today. So right there at the background, what do you think we will probably be learning? Like looking at my background there.
Like about flowers,
What do you
sunflowers,
say?
like flowers.
Science. Or what? I didn't get. I didn't hear you.
Flowers.
Flowers. Oh,
Or
okay.
like
That was
the
very close. Huh?
types of insects.
You guessing? Okay, you talk about types of insects. Talk about flowers. All right. There is a topic like in between the two of them. Like, how does the insect now sync with the flower? What has the insect got to do with the flower? What business had? What's the business with the flowers there?
Like pollination.
Huh? What do you say?
Pollination.
Pollination. Yes, that was the topic. Pollination and fertilization. Pollination and fertilization. That's the topic. That's the topic actually. Pollination and fertilization. So let's look at that. I'm going to share my screen and we are going to learn about pollination and fertilization. Tell me if you can see my screen.
Uh,
Great. Can you
yeah,
put
I can
on
see
your
it.
video? Put on your video.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let's continue with the class. So looking at this, we want to learn pollination and fertilization. Is this your first time of hearing these two words?
Um,
I doubt it's your first time because you're able to mention pollination. So definitely you'll be able to know fertilization. So it's going to be a breeze today, I believe. You'll easily be able to understand this concept, and we are going to test knowledge on it and know how well. So let's get on. Yes, we're going to know how well at the end of the day. So before we continue, we want to know the meaning of these concepts. If I'm to ask you what you understand by these two words, what would you tell me?
uh, That pollination is the transfer of pollen from a male anther to a female stigma.
From a male what?
From male anther to a female stigma.
Oh, that means you fully understood the topic. That's great. That is exactly what it is. That is
Yes.
exactly what it is. So, you could look at this as a summary topic, because we're not going to spend so much time. We're going to go straight into activities in a moment. So pollination is of course transferred from anther to a stigma of a flower. The flower may be the same flower. It could be another flower on the same tree or on the same plant, and it could be another flower on another tree or on another plant. Once this transfer is made, is known as pollination. But note that transferring alone is not enough. It has to now travel to the ovary. Once the pollen has dropped on the stigma, it goes through the style. The style connects or holds the stigma and the ovary in place. When it gets to the ovary, which is where the ovules are being produced, of course, there is a word known as ovum. The ovum is a female gamete, and the plural form for ovum is ova. Then the male gamete is known as the pollen. Then the stamen is the male part of the flower, which is made up of the anther and the filament. So we've already learned two things already. The male part, which is the anther and the filament, and the female part, which is the ovary, style, and stigma. Ovary, style, and stigma. The three of them makes the female part of the flower. So looking at this, you can easily point at all of these as the male part, alright, and that to be the female part of the flower. Then we have the petals, and you can also say that this part is known as the hard structure of the plant. Like these leaves here, or this part protecting the flower, are known, this place I'm dotting, they are known as the sepal. They are known as the sepal. Then the stem is known as the receptacle. That is this part is known as the receptacle. Are you getting? Are you following up?
Yes.
Okay, so it means we've gotten all of that. You know, before the flower opens up, it first of all grows into a big bud. What is protecting the flower is the sepal, and what is holding on the sepal is the receptacle. When the flower finally opens up, the sepal spreads open, and we have the beautiful flower above it. So there we have the pollen. You can see the pollen grain there, right inside the anther. So the anther produces this pollen. The pollen is the male gamete, as we mentioned before, and is produced in the anther, the top part of the stamen. Then this pollen drops on the stigma, and this is where we are probably going closer to the fertilization stage. So tell me, choose one of the options now. Which of the parts of the flower would you pick as the female part of the flower?
The the ovary.
Ovary and
The s- the stamen.
the what?
The stamen.
The okay, is it A and D or
Yeah,
C
A and D.
and D? A and D.
Yes.
Okay, let's find out if that is correct. So the first answer would be the stigma. Remember, I talking about the female part of the flower, and the second one will be the ovary. The anther is part of the stamen. The anther and the filament makes up the stamen. The stamen is the male part of the flower, while the stigma and the ovary plus the style all makes up the female part of the flower. The female part of the flower can also be known as the carpel or the pistil or the pistil, while the male part can be known as the stamen, which is the anther and the filament combined together. I hope you got that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So any of these two can be referred to as the female part, which contains the stigma, the style, and the ovary, where the ovum is produced. Alright, where the ovum is produced, and the plural form of the ovum is the ova. I hope we got that. Can we continue? Can we continue with the slide now?
Yeah.
Okay, so now we continue.
Yes.
Pollination happens in two stages. It could be self or it could be cross. For the self pollination, we are talking about the same flower or another flower of the same plant. As far as it's on the same plant that the pollination occurred, that is known as self pollination. It's just literally what occurs on the same flower or on the same plant. You must have heard of hermaphrodites. Have you?
No.
Okay, so you don't know what hermaphrodites are?
No.
Hermaphrodites are organisms that can reproduce themselves without needing an opposite an opposite gender or a second gender or a second sex. So you literally have some organisms like snails reproducing themselves without by just laying eggs without the need of those eggs to be fertilized by another gender. It produces itself. So it's going to have both the male part and the female reproductive part. That is what hermaphrodites have. They have the both reproductive organs, both the male organ and the female organ. So a flower usually have these both parts. So you could say that a flower could reproduce by itself and a flower could help another flower to reproduce. So it's possible that two hermaphrodites could reproduce together, and these hermaphrodites could also reproduce by themselves. They don't even need the help of another hermaphrodite. They could reproduce themselves by mixing the two reproductive gametes that they reproduce. That means they can reproduce the egg and they can reproduce the pollen, or they can reproduce the ovum and they can reproduce the pollen grains. That's what these flowers are. So look at this. Now, on the same flower, the stamen produce the pollen grain, and the pollen grain is transferred to the stigma of its own, like the same flower. So its own stigma is what happened here, and this is known as self-pollination. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Alright. Then when we now talk about cross-pollination, we're talking about it moving to another flower. another flower. Not another flower of the same plant, but another flower of another plant, and specifically to the stigma of another plant. If you just mention another flower of another plant, that could be right, but it's more appropriate to say to the stigma of the flower of another plant. And that another plant is of the same species, meaning that you cannot say a goat would reproduce a dog. A goat will only reproduce another goat. So a flower like this, on, let's say, a flower on you could mention any tree at all. Let me just say an orange tree. The flower of an orange tree can only pollinate the flower of another orange tree or itself. It cannot pollinate the flower on a tomato plant. Do you understand?
Yes.
It's that simple. And there we have cross pollination has taken place. And so cross pollination can lead to something like this. It can lead to something like this. So it can lead to something like this. And this also happens in plants. You must have heard of sexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. Asexual and sexual reproduction. Have you heard of that before?
No.
Okay, so asexual reproduction is using a part of a flower of a plant, not literally a flower, part of a plant to reproduce itself. So you must have heard of cutting the stem of cassavas to reproduce cassavas, right?
No, no.
Okay, so when you cut the stems of cassava into small cuts of like 10 centimeter to 15 centimeter long per cut, you can put like one or two cuts into the ground, the stem, and by the time you cover it and you come after some weeks, it's supposed to reproduce a cassava plant. And the stem that is now anchoring the plant is where the cassava will be produced inside the ground. So that is using part of a plant to reproduce itself, and that is known as asexual reproduction. There are some plants that are reproduced by itself using their leaves, using their suckers, like plantains. Plantains, they use their suckers. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so use the sucker of plantains to reproduce itself. That is asexual. But sexual reproduction has to do with using the seed to reproduce itself. Using the seed. Note that even if it has finally reproduced itself, it's still going to grow flowers at some point. Though some flowers are beautiful like this, and some flowers are not beautiful. You won't even know that those are called flowers. The ones that are beautiful are pollinated by by what we call agents of pollination. And the ones that are not beautiful are also being pollinated by some agents of pollination as well. So let's look at the agents of pollination, because we want to know how these flowers now get pollinated, or how they are aided to be pollinated so that fertilization can take place and they can now start reproducing on that plant. So first of all, answer this question. Cross-pollination is the process of pollen moving from the anther to the stigma. Is it true or false?
Yeah.
Be very sure.
True.
Read it very sure and tell me if it's true or false.
True.
Okay, if it said it's true, can you justify your answer?
A.
Cross-pollination is the transfer of pollen from one flower to another flower. Well, that may be right, but let's find out if it's truly right. If it's truly appropriate or the most accurate answer. My answer, I would say, is false. And why is it false? It's because it's not just moving from anther to the stigma. No. It's because and that's why it's false. But it's because the cross pollination is the transfer of pollen from the flower of one plant to the flower of another plant of the same species. Of the same species. So B is the answer, justifying why I chose false. Do we get that? Do you understand
Yeah.
that?
Yes.
So looking at this, the pollen grains are very small and they can easily be moved, like by the legs of this insect. You see that my background is carrying the picture of a bee. So this bee is a very good pollinator. It's an agent of pollination. Wind is also another one, and water is also another one. So all those ones that are not so beautiful, those flowers that are not so beautiful, are pollinated mostly by water and wind. But the ones that are beautiful, they are being attracted, like they attract these insects to themselves. And these insects, when they come to suck out the nectar from the flower, they end up carrying this pollen. Mistake, it's literally like mistake, all right, because their legs stuck to these pollen grains, which are so tiny, and they can stick a lot of them to their legs, and then they fly away. And when they get to another species, the same one that is attractive, the same species, they drop the pollen on the stigma also by mistake, like not intentional, and the stigma will take this to where it's going to get fertilized. Do you understand?
Yes.
So tell me which of the okay, we can see that there are three insects mentioned now: wasp, butterfly, and bee. So the next slide will ask you a question soon. Pay attention. This vital because they ensure that food are being produced, because this is what pollination does. Pollination leads to fertilization, and fertilization leads to production of food. They are majorly performed by bees. There are other ones like butterfly and wasp. There are also more insects that helps with pollination. So looking at this question now, which of the two are pollinators between A, B, and C?
Butterfly.
Huh?
Butterfly.
Send me
Let's
your
see.
answer in the chat. Yes, C and okay, butterfly and what?
And B.
Huh?
C and B.
Beetle. Okay, beetle. Okay, that is A and C.
Earthworm.
Is it A and C?
No, B and C.
B and C. Are you saying earthworm is
Yes.
a pollinator? How will earthworm move so fast from one plant to another plant? Remember we talked about insects. That insects are pollinators. Look at the previous slide. They are mostly insects. That are pollinators. Earthworms, they are decomposers and they are not pollinators. So the answer is A and C. Beetle and butterfly. Other pollinators we talked about earlier on is wasp and bee. So we are going to look at task A in your OneNote. You take that as an assignment because we have another exercise in view. So I'm going to uh, get straight to fertilization. We are done with half of it already. So you look at your OneNote. I've already sent that to your OneNote. You take that as an assignment. All right.
Yes.
All right. So here we have the next one. Do you have any question on pollination?
No.
Okay, so we have the next one. We have a pollen grain and an ovum carry half genetic information required to make a seed. So when they combine, they form something. So let's find out what they form. So they end up, let's look at that. They end up forming a nucleus. But the nucleus is not, it does not end there. It needs to reproduce and become something. So you see inside the nucleus there's a chromosome. Now this chromosome it contains the DNA, what the identity of a new plant, because either a new plant will be produced or a fruit will be produced. So the pollination brings the male gamete to the stigma of the female reproductive organ, and the nuclei of the pollen and ovum fuse together in the process of fertilization, and it forms a zygote. And this zygote is what grows on to become either a plant, a new plant, or a seed. Alright? It literally forms a seed most times, and then it now grows out to become a full-grown fruit. So that is exactly how we have apples germinate, like grow out, watermelons, pawpaw. Name them. Name any fruit. Bananas. Name anyone. Name any fruit that you eat. Is there which other fruit do you eat?
Orange.
Yeah.
Um, water,
Huh?
watermelons.
Can you type what you eat in the chat? Can you type some fruits that you eat in the chat? Okay, oranges and watermelon. Oh, I mostly eat watermelon and pawpaws. I really love them. I really love watermelon and pawpaws. Like I could even go extra mile, cut the watermelon into small ones and the pawpaws into small ones. It's going to mix and I'll make it cold. And I could go it's just like making a parfait, but of course the parfait contains more than just watermelons and pawpaw. It may not even contain watermelon though, but it could contain pawpaw, it could contain apple, it could contain coconut, it could contain granite, and there is this fruit. It could even contain berries. It could contain any of these fruits that gives or aids our vitamin. All right, let's continue. Well done, and keep eating them. And I did not forget, I also eat cucumbers and garden eggs. Yeah, those ones are also very very cute for men. All right, so let's try to answer this question. True or false question?
Uh, true.
True.
No.
Justify.
No, false. False.
False. Oh, are you sure it's false?
Yes.
Are you sure that pollination is not required? Because that's what false mean. When you say false, you're saying that pollination is not required for sexual reproduction to take place. That means the pollen grain will just get itself into the ovary by itself. That pollination is not necessary. When you choose false, that's exactly what it means.
No, I think true.
True. So if you now agree that the answer is true, then justify your answer. Which of them would be your answer? Is it A or B? Justify your answer there.
B.
B. Hmm. Pollination brings the male gamete with the half, the DNA to the stigma. Okay, pollination transfers pollen from the stigma to the anther. Of course, no. A is not even correct. So the answer is true. Let's go on. Sorry about that. So the answer is true and is B. Beautiful, well done. So let's go on to, this is what we're talking about. Processes of pollination and fertilization enables the plant to reproduce, and pollen tube forms. You see how they're now forming, and it's going to break out the flower. That's the beautiful thing of it. It's going to break out the flower, so the flower will end up withering when they reproduce. The flower will end up withering when they produce. So the male gametes inside the ovary mixes with the ovum, and there's the pollen tube. All of these, let's just see, let's just rush through this because we are actually almost done with the slide. And you can see this is the zygote forming into a seed. Alright, it's forming into a seed. So the process from it forming a nucleus, the chromosome it contains, forming the identity of the plant, and successfully forms a zygote, which develops into a hard nut seed. That's what's beautiful. And you see that the seed can equally form a plant. The flower could even form a fruit. If the seed is released, it can reproduce another plant. Alright, it can reproduce a fruit as well. So put the stages of plant reproduction in the correct order. A, B, C, and D. Tell me what is the right order.
Yeah.
Yeah? Tell me in the chat, type your answer in the chat, which in the right order.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's be quick so we can get through the slide. Okay, let me check the charts. I'm waiting for your answer. You don't need to write the whole thing, just arrange it in alphabets. The alphabet, okay, A, C, B, D. Let's look at that. Let's look at that. So if you say A, pollen tube forms down style. C, pollen deposited on stigma. Then B, male gamete and ovum fuse to form zygote. Then D, male gamete move down tube to the ovary. Well, I can almost guarantee that the first alphabet will be C, because pollen needs to be deposited on stigma first. Then the male gamete will move down the tube to the ovary, since the pollen is a male gamete. So that should be CD. Then when it moves to the ovary, the male gamete and ovum fuse to form zygote. Okay, most likely C and D comes first before you even think of A and B. So that's what you should be thinking of before you answer this. So let's have that. So we have 1, 2, then 3 and 4. So you see pollen deposited on stigma. Then after the pollen tube forms, you can now say that so the zygote forming is the last one. Then the seed forming, which is from the zygote, is the fifth one. So you can say the first step, pollen deposits on the stigma, which is C. Then we have pollen tube forms down style, which is A. Then we have male gamete moves down tube to the ovary. So why is it that the pollen tube forms first? Is because it needs a pathway for the pollen to get to the ovary. That's why the pollen tube forms. So when it gets to the ovary, the next one is that the male gamete and ovum fuse to form a zygote. I hope that makes sense.
Yes.
All right. Oh, okay. So let's look at this. We have pollination, fertilization, germination. Now these are three different concepts. It's easy. We've talked about pollination and fertilization. The third term is germination. But these three images is talking about the three of them. So tell me, A, which one would you match A to?
Ah,
A is what?
A is germination.
Then B is what?
Pollination.
Okay, so therefore C is fertilization. Well done. Well done. So the task B is an assignment for you. So we are ending the presentation here, and we are going into task A and B is your assignment. We are going into exercise right now on Kahoot. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have about 21 questions on Kahoot that we're going to be answering. So in a moment, I'm going to share that part of my screen. So we are changing our technique today. Instead of using Blue Kit, we are going to use Kahoot. Of course, we've also used Wayground. So, but today is we're going to make use of Kahoot. Oh, Kahoot is taking some time, but we're going to get on it soon. All right, let's see. It's taking some time. Okay, finally, it's going to open eventually, and I will send the link soon. So yes, it's on already. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of not responsive, but it's loading, and finally it did. So let's see. It's usually such a breeze, like for Bluecade reloads so much. All right, so fast. I mean, so let's begin. going to send the link to you to the chat now, so you can click on the link to join. Are you in already? I'm waiting.
Almost there.
All right. Okay. Well done. Let's begin. Oh, well done. Let's go on to the next one. So I will not show you your points. Of course, yeah, you are playing it, but let's see how many you're able to get. You've gotten your first one. Got your first one. You got the second one. Well done. Let's keep going. By the male parts of a flower. Let's get the third one. Great, you've gotten your third question. Let's go to the fourth question. What does the sigma do? Okay, that's awesome. Just say. Okay, so let's continue. The next one. What does the style do? Alright, let's continue. But this one is wrong. So this is your first miss, right?
No, that's my second.
Your second, yeah. The previous one you missed that out. So that's 3 out of 5. Okay, that's still 3 out of 5. So the style produces, sorry, holds up the stigma, not produces pollen. The style does not produce pollen. The male gamete is the filament and the anther. The style belongs to the female gamete, so it holds up the stigma. What does the anther do? Produces pollen. Exactly. That's 4 out of 6. Well done. Fertilization occurs in plants when dash. You didn't answer. You didn't choose an option. didn't choose an option, you missed that out automatically. So fertilization occurs in plants when pollen tubules penetrate and combines with the oval. Alright, let's continue. So that's 4 out of 7. 4 out of 7. 4 out of 7. Which of the following are parts of the female reproductive organ system in plants? Yeah, the style. Well done. That's a 5 out of 8. That's a 5 out of 8. Pollination happens in the dash. Okay, it happens in the flower. Well done. Sexual reproduction involves dash. This is where they will ask for sexual and asexual. I know that I know you pick identical. Identical is for asexual, oh, and is one parent for identical. But when it's two parents, it's usually non-identical. That means it's not exactly. It's the same species, but not exactly the same. Right? That means it's possible for two parents to reproduce. That means, for example, two orange plants, one could be bitter, one could be sweet, and they end up producing something that they end up producing a plant that is in short very very bitter. All right, the sweet part of that is the sweetness is just not going to show in that plant. But if it's an identical offspring and that tree is sweet, it's going to produce an identical offspring that is sweet, and that only happens in asexual reproduction, not seed. Seed planting is sexual reproduction, while vegetative part planting or planting vegetative parts of a plant is known as asexual. So that's 5 out of 9. Asexual reproduction involves dash. You picked two parents again. I told you that asexual is one parent. Asexual reproduction is one parent. Hermaphrodites. You can remember hermaphrodites. So that's a 5 out of 10. Let's continue. What is fertilization? Pay attention to the question and let's see. Be confident and pick an answer. Okay, this time around, the movement of the pollen grain into the oval. Okay, the movement of the oval into the pollen grain. The process of the plant to make food. Okay. Fertilization is the movement of the pollen grain into the oval so that they can what? The pollen grain and the ovum can mix together and form a zygote, which eventually forms a seed. But the ovule does not go to the pollen grain. It does not go to the pollen grain. The pollen grain goes to the ovule. Sepal. What is sepal? What is sepal? What is sepal? Great. Well done. Well done, you got that right. based on the expansion in class. Well done, you've added up to your point. Answer before the time runs out. You didn't answer. Okay, yeah, you pick the male sex cell and pollen. Uh, the male sex cell and pollen, are they not the same thing? Are they not the same? Hello, are they not the same thing? Eh?
Yes.
Yeah, they are the same. So they are the same thing, please. The female sex cell and the male sex cell is what is needed. If they mention the pollen and the oval, then that would also be the answer. Let's get to the next, please. Petal. Yeah, that's obvious. Most times the longest option is usually the answer. Sometimes the longest, that's the longest in weddings, is usually the answer. But that could also be a technique too. Where is its stigma? A, B, C, D, E. Which of them is the stigma? The stigma. You've not picked. You didn't pick. C is the answer. So this is the stigma. C is the answer. Do you get that?
Yes.
Hello? You are not picking options. Why? Why are you leaving it to run down? Ife? Ife, why are you leaving it to run down now?
For what?
You did not pick in the last, and you did not pick in this one.
I thought I did.
Oh, you thought you did. Okay. Alright, try to pick an option before the time runs down. You are going to know when you pick from your screen. You will know. What's the sigma? Stigma. Yeah, it's sticky. It catches pollen grains, please. That's right. And we have 3 more questions to go, with this being the first. The stamen. Well done. Well done. Well done. Well done. That is impressive. You're able to remember that this time. What holds the anther? What holds the anther? What holds the anther? The filaments. Well done. And then we have the last question. The filament. So you just repeated the question in a different way. Well done, that was awesome. So you can see that they separated the male parts to be stamen and the female part to be pistil. To be pistil. So that should have already clarified. So let's get to the final. You are the winner, anyways. Well done. Probably next time I may consider joining the quiz if you want me to though. Alright, and today we could actually call it a day. Yeah.
Like before you go, can you give me the link to the OneNote?
Alright, that's exactly what I will send to you now. So let me do that now. I would appreciate you bookmark the link. You can bookmark the link either or as a history on your device. Even from the history of your device, you can easily get to this again. You can bookmark it. So it's another tab that contains the link. Let me just share it now in a moment, please. So check the charts. Should be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so click on the link and access it like right now. Access it right now and tell me what you see there.
Okay.
Yeah, what do you see? Hello, what do you see?
I see.
Just go to I
Yeah, assignments correlation.
yeah, assignment pollination. So that's where the assignment is. That's where the assignment is, pollination. There is also a starter quiz on pollination and fertilization. So try and do that as well. So there's a starter quiz on pollination and fertilization, and there's an assignment on the place I tagged assignment pollination. Alright, take care. Do have a wonderful day and bye for now. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah, bye.